They will never mention Germany, France, and the UK as authoritarian states. They always bring up Russia. They always attack China because they are agents and tools of the empire. You have Germany that is led by a BlackRock prime minister. You guys realize the capitalist class is so embedded within the ruling class in Germany, they got rid of the middleman. So we know fascism is the merging between the corporation and the state. Why? Because fascism, and this is why liberalism and capitalism are twins to fascism, it is systemic government, systemic oppression of the working class. Keir Starmer, Friedrich Merz, the BlackRock Prime Minister of Germany, is implementing austerity and cutting social programs so they can fund never-ending war and fund NATO. But you will never see Zohran, Cory Bush, who we're going to get to very soon. You will never see any of these people have these criticisms of United States friends and puppets. You guys realize that it's almost impossible for Venezuela and Cuba to have fair elections because of the West. Because when you put sanctions on the country, what is sanctions for? Sanctions are designed to be the ultimate form of election interference and meddling in other people's country, because the goal of sanctions, as stated by the U.S. State Department, is so you can turn a population against the leader. They want to topple the economy of the government so people will rise up against a regime. This is not a conspiracy theory. These are things that people like Anthony Blinken, Mike Pompeo, they say out loud. They said we have to increase the sanctions so the people in Venezuela will finally rise up against Maduro. So do you guys understand, under this scenario, it is already impossible to have a free election. Not only that, you have the CIA pumping money into the opposition party that ran against Maduro. You have Juan Guaido that is openly propped up by a foreign power. So I'm telling you guys right now, if you guys ever have the ability and I ever get a chance, you guys vote for President Nick Cruse. And there's people who betray our revolution by taking foreign capitalist money in order to destabilize our country. And then this same political party that took money from the CIA, that planned a coup against the government, who immediately denied every single election result and then plotted to kill the president. I'm telling you guys right now, Nicolas Maduro was way too kind to these people. Do you guys understand how fucking nice Nicolas Maduro actually is? The fact that Juan Guaido and these people's parties even exist anymore. Look at what Democrats did to a bunch of drunk rednecks who protested at the Capitol because they mad because their favorite reality TV star lost an election. It wasn't an armed insurrection. There wasn't any politicians who was assassinated. Wasn't any gunfire exchange between the government and the people. They locked these motherfuckers up for 20 plus years. The Democrats ruined their life, and then they called it an insurrection. Do you guys realize what the United States funded in Venezuela is like January 6th times 1,000. January 6th on steroids. There have been CIA operations where CIA officers was caught in Venezuela. You had the Venezuelan government that just said they foiled a false flag bombing. Do you understand what the United States would do if they caught people being directly funded by China and had a plot to assassinate the president of the United States? They would kill them immediately. Wouldn't even be arrested, killed on the scene. Meanwhile, people like Bernie Sanders and Zohran Mamdani calls Nicolas Maduro a tyrant? Why? Because he went after the people who tried to kill him? Do you understand how twisted your mind has to be to believe these kind of things? And for you to uncritically believe in the government propaganda about Venezuelan elections, despite the fact that we are not even a democracy. We have complete corporate rule. AIPAC, and you can predict who's going to win a United States election at around a 96, 97% clip based on who have the most capitalist donors. 100. Try to primary Nancy Pelosi. You got fucking oligarch monarch kings who have these powerful positions, like Joe Biden, who was senator for 40 years. And then whenever they see that, they never bat an eye about that. And then they look at Cuba, and then they look at Nicolas Maduro, and they're like, oh my God, why have they had one party rule for so long? Motherfucker, we have one party rule. Both parties support neoliberalism, Zionism, and suppression of the working class in order to expand the profits of the capitalist class. So is the real criticism that you're upset how they don't go around and do the bullshit capitalist marketing of their systems? Because if you actually study Cuban elections and Venezuelan elections, which they never do, because whenever you see Zohran Mamdani, Bernie Sanders, and all the social democrat scum who like to throw the enemies of the United States under the bus, you know they never like quote any sources. There's never like real information that has been broken down to explain why they're full of shit. So in the United States, in order to become a senator, you got to be a millionaire. You can't even win an election in this country unless you're part of the capitalist class. You got to know in Cuba, they have ordinary people like farmers, students, construction workers, ordinary members of the proletariat who run and win. They don't have parties who select candidates. Do you guys know that the candidates in Cuba, and I've been doing a lot of research on this in preparation for the stream, they're not allowed to be selected by parties. There's no Hillary Clintons here. There's no Joe Bidens here. So Zohran Mamdani, sir, they rigged both primaries against Bernie Sanders. You still got Social Democrats pretending that we the peak of democracy. There's none of that in Cuba. I'm going to read this great thread. There's a lot of great information about people who actually decolonize their mind and won't listen to nonsense Western smears about other countries. This is my friend Joey. There are free elections in Cuba, and the United States has opposed every single one. When you look at the CIA mailing in Cuban elections, once again, the sanctions, the embargoes, the propaganda campaigns. One more thing on Venezuela. Do you guys know that in Venezuela, there are literally whole ass opposition media industry that don't like Nicolas Maduro? You see it all the time because you see people on Fox News and people on the right will be like, look at the media bash Nicolas Maduro. This is evidence that they don't like him too. Who control these networks? You have the white class traders who want the Venezuela to be more pro-West, who run and operate these media stations in Venezuela that run anti-Nicolas Maduro propaganda. How can you say someone is a tyrant or a dictator when they allow opposition media to exist in their country? You want to know who don't allow that? Zelensky in Ukraine. The UK doesn't allow that. You guys realize their social media ban, like their hardcore ban on speaking out against Zionism, the fact that they arrest 33 people per day, and it's like they could de facto shut down opposition against the state. Ukraine more directly. I think that's the better example, where Ukraine just straight up said there won't be any oppositional media, no oppositional parties. But is Zohran Mamdani calling Ukraine a fascist regime? Is Zohran Mamdani saying Ukraine not democratic? Is Bernie Sanders calling out the fascist state of Ukraine who banned collective bargaining? They're not calling those states out. They won't even call out Germany and UK. How many progressives call out the Germany in the UK for descending into full-fledged fascism? You got Bernie Sanders, AOC, every single progressive. They praise social democrat style countries that essentially ban pro-Palestinian protest. They would never mention Germany, France, and the UK as authoritarian states. They always bring up Russia. They always attack China because they are agents and tools of the empire. You have Germany that is led by a BlackRock prime minister. You guys realize the capitalist class is so embedded within the ruling class in Germany, they got rid of the middleman. So we know fascism is the merging between the corporation and the state. Why? Because fascism, and this is why liberalism and capitalism are twins to fascism, it is systemic government, systemic oppression of the working class, and promotion of imperialist projects. So Keir Starmer, Friedrich Merz, the BlackRock Prime Minister of Germany, is implementing austerity and cutting social programs so they can fund never-ending war and fund NATO. But you will never see Zohran, Cory Bush, who we're going to get to very soon. You will never see any of these people have these criticisms of United States friends and puppets. Because social democracy is the moderate wing of fascism. They're here to sell empire talking points to the left and make pro-imperialist talking points acceptable within the left. So, Zohran Mamdani, if you're a leader, it's your job to be explaining this to people instead of being a centrist weasel. Parties do not run in Cuba, just individuals. Candidates do not bombard Cubans with political advertisements, and elections begin at a municipal level. As a result, unlike the United States, the Cuban Congress consists of workers, farmers, teachers, and real professionals. The inhumanity. Compare that to the United States, where the Congress is made up of nothing but Nepo babies, lawyers, and capitalist scum. Like, J.D. Vance is directly propped up from Wall Street, became senator, I think it was Ohio or some shit like that. I don't know. Now vice president. Do you know how fucking broken brain, how buck broken, how colonized your mind have to be to believe the United States have a stronger democracy than Cuba? To believe the United States have a stronger democracy than China? They don't force people to vote in Cuba, but their voter turnout is way higher than ours. The United States have one of the lowest voter turnouts in the world because the United States citizenry have no faith in our elections. Cuban voter turnout is 76%. What does that say? Does that say that the people have faith in a democratic process? Isn't that one way you can measure whether a country is democratic or not? Like your faith that you have the ability to change your government. If you have only 49% of U.S. voters coming out to vote in the United States, and most of them, even they know it's bullshit, what does that say about your democracy? So when Zohran is asked about Cuba and Venezuela, why don't he ever bring this kind of stuff up? Isn't it your job to educate people? Apparently not. The same way when he was asked about October 7th, he repeats the same bullshit, doesn't mention the Hannibal Directive, lies and overinflates the numbers, and undercounts the amount of Palestinians who was killed. We're going to get to that very soon. It's truly disgusting what he did. We're already 30 minutes in. Jesus Christ. Let me show you guys this. I'm going to show you guys a few things. This is our friend John LaBraca. Because now I'm going to discuss the strategy a bit on why what Zohran did is so stupid and why his October tweets was so absurd. Because what is your strategy? Like, why are you still pretending that this is 2015? No one likes a weaselly centrist. Because I saw a whole ass segment on CNN. It was Abby Phillips. her talk show. She has all these fucking Zionists on. And they were talking about Zohran Mamdani's October 7th tweet. And they was ripping him to shreds for it. And now the left see his October 7th tweets. And we're ripping him to shreds for it. So this is the dumb lip dip centrist strategy where you put out a statement and you take a position that appeals to nobody. The same way his statements on Venezuela and Cuba. I'm going to get to the October 7th one here very soon. This is our friend Jamu. Mamdani is a criminal. People should not be surprised when anti-communist social democrat reveal their rightist pro-imperialist politics. And this is why anti-communism is a disease, because his wife, and I'm sure he does too, because I don't think he have big political differences with his wife on the issue of Syria. He never mentioned it, but you guys know his wife was a free Syrian activist. She was a fan of the head choppers, and now the head choppers took charge, started chopping heads, and now Zohran Mamdani and his wife have nothing to say about Syria now. You guys know that all the people that were saying free Syria, they have nothing to say about Syria anymore. Anti-communism, social democracy, it's a disease. Why would you believe empire talking points about Syria? The same people believe empire talking points about Libya. The same people repeating empire talking points about Ukraine. It's a disease, and these are not small differences. These are gigantic differences between the ideology between social democrats and me, and from anti-imperialists, from communists, from people who actually want to stand against the empire. We don't support throwing the global south under the bus. If you're running in this empire with the odds against us as it is, the only weapon we have is truth. You need to be telling the truth about these things, because that's the best political strategy. So Mamdani actually just fucking pissed everyone off. So Mamdani people will say, well, Zohran, he has to say this kind of stuff because he'll get eviscerated by the centrists if he don't. He's still saying this shit. They're still destroying him. So the strategy is incoherent. And Mamdani knows it's incoherent as well. But he is performing his job. His job is to shift what it means to be a socialist to the right. And he's going to do that even if it means engaging in bad strategy, like repeating empire talking points about Syria, like repeating empire talking points in Venezuela and Cuba. Anyway, let me finish a Jamu's statement. I'm going to show you guys a few more reactions, and I get to the October 7th because I'm kind of combining. I guess like these critiques between both of these statements that he made is so identical, because your boy was streaking. Zohran, and now that he essentially has the election in the back, he is signaling to the capitalist class that he's on their side, that he's not going to be rogue. It's full on mask off for Zohran Mamdani, and people can't say I didn't tell them so, that they wasn't warned. You fell for it again. People should not be surprised when anti-communist social democrats reveal their rightist pro-imperial politics. What is so treacherous is that he's sophisticated enough to understand the context that the United States is making plans to attack Venezuela, but he still repeats empire talking points. Bro, and he was getting dismantled by every single anti-imperialist coming out. Even the Zohran fans were like, fuck. You really gonna prove Nick Cruse right again? I know that was a lot of people think. I was getting tired like a motherfucker. Zohran Mamdani's claim that Maduro and Diaz-Canel are dictators is CIA propaganda one-on-one. His lies sanitize U.S. sanctions that killed 40,000 Venezuelans since 2017, while he stays silent on Trump's military threats and Rubio's call for regime change. Cuba's crime, guaranteeing free health care and education under siege. But we supposed to hate Cuba when they have a literacy rate higher than ours, sky-high literacy rate, free education, free health care, exporting doctors all around the world. But Zohran Mamdani and the Social Democrats want us to despise them. Do you guys see how I couldn't be more different than these people? And their politics disgust me. Like, it's not a small disagreement for me to oppose you throwing people under the bus and lying for the capitalist class in your pursuit for power. And people are like, man, he got to play the game, Nick. He got to get elected first. Quick question. When have you ever seen someone who started to hedge on issues and shift to the right during an election who then won and then governed better than expected? When have that ever happened? Spoiler alert, it never happened in the United States in my lifetime. So why do you guys keep advocating for failed strategies? You don't hedge to gain power and then risk power once you have it. If you're willing to say whatever it takes to win, that means you're going to do whatever it takes to maintain power. Why don't people understand this? Why don't people understand the basic fact that if you're willing to sell out on foreign policy, it's a guarantee that you will sell out on domestic policy as well. That's why foreign policy is a great litmus test. If you're going to bend on that, you're going to bend on domestic policy as well. All right, let me speed this segment up a little bit. Zohran Mamdani's condemnation of the revolutions in Cuba and Venezuela is typical of democratic socialists who only seek to redistribute the wealth of imperialism while repeatedly siding with fascistic forces like the United States-funded opposition in Venezuela. Still, it's not hard to know the absurdity of an elected American socialist with a mild social democratic platform condemning countries that have achieved actual working class revolutions and transformed the structures of their societies. Now let's unpack that for a second, because who calls Putin a tyrant all the time? You have Bernie Sanders and every single NATO left that said Putin, he's a tyrant, they live in an authoritarian state. Sir and ma'am, you guys realize Putin offers health care to his people. You know that Medicare for all thing that you guys failed to deliver in the United States? You know that thing you failed to deliver called paid maternity leave? They have that in Russia. So you guys, the disdain that Western anti-communists have for people who actually achieve worker power in a country using different methods than them. It's a disdain that extremely rubs me the wrong way. Like, these people will say China is an authoritarian country. Sir and ma'am, in China, 70% of millennials own their homes. And look, where are the millions of homeless people in Russia and Moscow? You're not finding them. So as you guys failed the working class of your country, you think you have the audacity to smear other people's revolution? Countries who are approved of by their own people? Do you guys see why that's imperialist minded? This is why I talk to my Trotskyite friends. Leave your China criticisms at home. Who are you to think you know more than the Chinese working class who accomplish more subjugating their capitalists than you ever will? China lifts countless people out of poverty. They're creating massive infrastructure projects. They're putting people to work. People are optimistic about the future. So who are you to be some sort of Western imperialist minded scum to say, well, they didn't have the right revolution? I argue with Trotskyist style people all the time about this. I argue about anarchist style people about this all the time. Who are you to overwrite what the Chinese people view as best for them? You guys understand that's inherently imperialist? That's the entire politics of Zohran Mamdani, AOC, Bernie Sanders. Wag the finger at the global South who resist the United States while actually accomplishing nothing for the working class. It's a disgusting ideology, and we couldn't be further apart politically. For the people who say, well, Nick, why are you always going to Zohran Mamdani? Why are you going to these social democrats? Aren't you guys similar? No, we are not. It's huge. It's gigantic conflicting worldviews. Do you understand? Zoya's love, Zoya's life. American exceptionalism is the justification for opposing the global South. Very well said. Eddie Liger, this is my friend. Once again, this for all the people who have like, this is why I'm cool with Eddie Liger and ACP people. Will you rather be with an ACP and tankies like us who refuse to throw the empire under the bus, or will you rather side with Zohran Mamdani? There are actually people who rather side with Zohran Mamdani than Eddie Liger. And that's crazy to me. Like, they're these progressives like, man, I hate the ACP, but you're voting for Zohran Mamdani? What the fuck is wrong with you? Give me any member of the ACP over Zohran Mamdani any day of the week, because you're not seeing any member of the ACP repeating CIA talking points about Venezuela and Russia. You know who does that? DSA people. These are the same DSA people. Like, man, Nick, you can't talk to the ACP. Don't you know ACP is secretly fascist? You guys are the motherfuckers who are voting for empire puppets. Someone explain to me that makes sense. Why Eddie Liger and the ACP is smeared as fascists when they defend the victims of the United States empire, and they are called fascists by the people who vote for imperialists. The United States left is cooked, man. I'm telling you, man. This, like, the fact that this tension even exists, the fact that DSA is even a thing, the fact that we struggle against these motherfuckers so much, this is why I don't even consider myself a part of the United States left. When I talk to my comrades around the world, the United States left is considered a joke. And the fact that Zohran Mamdani is considered a leader by these people is exactly why. I don't consider myself a part of the United States left. I'm a communist. I'm tanky as fuck. I am not a liberal. I am not a social democrat, and I will never be part of them.